we're going to do the Series 4 tier list. You can stay. So yes, Taxi, you can hang out with us. It's interesting when you go tier list to tier list and you ask people, hey, what do you think about this? Then they're like, yeah, we want to see a tier list. We want to understand this. So we put out the Series 5 tier list and then everyone's like, hey, can you explain more? And in my head, I'm like, I realize how long that video would have been, but apparently people want that. So if you do or you don't, either way, I do listen and read your feedback. So luckily, the Series 4 list is not as extensive. So it should be easier to kind of dive into each card a little bit more to explain the reasoning behind where I'm going to rank them. I'm not sure yet if we're going to put a deck defining archetype card in here, like the category, but we'll see along the way. Let's go for it. So Agony is interesting because it has basically very limited homes, and it's a card that you kind of feel like, well, okay, you want to put it on Deadpool, you want to put it on Lasher, you know, these hand buff, not hand buff, but the board buff style decks. Even Sebastian Shaw, it benefits from it, but it's often a card you end up just wanting to remove, and you can play it. It's not the best card in the world, but it's not a bad option either. You know, a 1-cost card that makes your Sebastian Shaw guaranteed as a 3/8 just by playing it there. That's not a bad thing. So especially if you get the line going with Deadpool, I mean, the way that he scales is fantastic. So I say Agony is, it's very niche, not necessary, therefore replaceable. Annihilus. I mean, Annie, it's weird to say that Annihilus in clog decks has been replaced by Merlin very often. So you can play it instead of Merlin, you can play it with Merlin, or you just play Merlin. Like, I don't know, like it's a good card for what it does. You know, it has very specific synergies. You want to play it with Sentry, you want to play it with the Hood, even the Debris Yellow Jacket combinations are really good. It's a strong card and it's kind of ebbed and flowed in the meta. Yeah, and even Cersei too, that's a good call. Cersei is also another one that you're kind of feeling like maybe, just maybe, I don't know. But I'm gonna call it niche and strong right now. I don't think it's a must-have. It's definitely not plug and play because it needs a very specific type of deck, but it's really good in that deck. I just wouldn't call it replaceable by Merlin. It's just an alternative that is of equal value, if not more value, depending on the meta. Batroc honestly was probably a surprise Series 4 card when he released, with the whole Hydra Stomper synergy with him, with Silk and Sam Wilson, Captain America, and there's a lot of good things happening with Batroc. I very much so think that he is a very good card in those very niche decks, but I don't know if he's mandatory. Like, you can run a Hydra Stomper deck without Batroc. Is it as good? No, but you can run it still. It's not a mandatory card for that deck, at least in my own opinion. Beta Ray Bill. I'm not a huge Beta Ray Bill fan. The Hammer Brothers deck is okay, and when you get Beta Ray Bill to do the thing, right? When you get Beta Ray Bill into Jane Foster to get the Stormbreaker, sure, it feels good. It's a guaranteed 412 plus the other 3 that are on the Stormbreaker. So 415 in total, but you could also get it to proc multiple times if you play like that plus Odin. That's great for like 1 lane. And as a single lane winning card that is very dependent on other card synergies just to make it do its thing, feel like I'd almost rather just play like Sage in most decks. It's just easier, even though it works in its niche of Hammer Bros. I've seen people try to play this in Surtur. Not as much of a fan of it. I'm gonna say it's niche but replaceable because it's not flexible. Black Knight. Black Knight's another one where he is his own archetype in my opinion. Black Knight decks exclusively want to be Black Knight decks. The question is it a must-have staple or are we calling it niche and strong? Because when you do the discard of, you know, play Lady Sif and you discard your Infonaut, then you have a 420 Black Knight's Ebony Blade in your hand. It's good. It's really good. Don't get me wrong. It's really good. And I've seen other variations be pretty successful. We've seen the Agatha versions be successful. We've seen the Helicarrier versions be pretty successful. And this one just comes and goes. It needs combo decks to be relevant in the meta. I don't know if that's the case right now at the time of this recording, but it is a option. If you play a Black Knight deck, you're playing a Black Knight deck, just like Annihilus in that sense. But in a way, it's still discard. It's just combo discard. No, that's the wrong word. It's like a combo package of discard stuff that you could put with some other things, unlike discard, where you think either Apocalypse and Dracula or Swarms, or that's more the archetype of discard. This is, let me build a combo using the tactic of discarding something. Blob. I'm gonna call him replaceable because, I mean, when he first came out, he was unbelievably broken. Now, standard blob, he's just a big tall guy that hits, you know, a good amount of power, but you're never playing it in a Ravona deck to make it cheaper, and you're always playing it as a final turn just to eat up whatever's left in your deck. Even in the decks that want to benefit from having him go over his threshold, something like a Surtur deck, you don't play that as a final turn. You want to do combos, like get 2 cards down on the final turn, and Blob just needs a better home. So you can put him in many places, but you very often don't. Gore is a better option right now. I would, like in the Series 4 department, if you have the option to get him, I probably wouldn't. Cannonball. I mean, Cannonball is just bananas. Especially with the release of Mercury, like Cannonball is just absolutely bananas. But the good thing about Cannonball too, very similar to Juggernaut, I don't think that you need to necessarily have a full deck dedicated to him doing what he wants to do, which is destroy the card. Even if he's just moving a card over, that's really strong for 5 cost, just like Juggernaut is. And having the target ability, having the ability to alternatively destroy, I think that Cannonball is probably a must-have card. It's probably a must-have card. I'm still slightly on the fence about it being a plug-and-play card like Flex Tech, or if it's going to be a must-have card. I'm back and forth, because when you get it in a clog deck, I mean, it's insane. And you're typically building a little bit of a package knowing that he's there. I'm gonna say for now, he's a plug and play Flex Tech card because he's just a good 5-drop. But he can be a must-have deck staple if it's like the Mercury Cannonball package or the Clog Debris style package. So I'm on the fence here. It might end up being on the low end of must-have or the high end of plug and play. Corvus. Corvus Glaive, discarding the 2 cards to get the +1 energy. It has homes. I think the Danish Hela deck is probably the best iteration of using Corvus to use that extra energy to your advantage. I think that it's a very strong card nevertheless, but you're not using it in every discard deck. You're just not. I think that it is a risk more often when you have very specific lines you need. That's why the Danish version works, because that one that plays Odin and Ghost Rider and all these other combos that can allow cards to come back, you feel better about it. Khonshu, yeah, Khonshu's another one as well for Corvus, 100% agree there. Not needed to make those decks run. It's just an option for those decks. Call Obsidian. He's a straight up 410. The only downside is you have to play him where there's a 1-cost card. So there is a little bit of a deck restriction to him. However, he's still a 410. I can't consider that bad. It's pretty flexible. I'm not 100% sold that it's plug and play. You know, you want it in a Zabu deck, you want it in a Zoo deck, you want it in a Thanos deck. That was the original intention for it. I'm gonna lean towards just niche and strong, because when I am looking at the 410s, if I'm looking at like Crossbones and Typhoid Mary, Atuma, and Cull Obsidian, I'm choosing Cull Obsidian more often than not. If I need a good, strong deck, I'm just gonna leave him here. I'm gonna leave him here because I feel pretty good about that. Dakin, man. I love that he has the flexibility of being able to be in both discard and destroy. But just because you're flexible doesn't mean you should be flexible. This is a card that if they got rid of the discard element of that Muramasa Shard to double up his power, nobody would miss it. Like, no one. Because no one plays that. Everyone just plays it in bullseye style discard. That just, you don't have to play the value of the card. I think the Muramasa Shard is very well balanced for the discard deck as a 1/1, but if they wanted to play with Dakin and make it more of a destroy friendly card, they need to make that Shard a 0/1. Until they do, I think he's niche and strong, because in the discard decks, whether you're doing the Frigga variations or Grandmaster to get multiple Muramasa Shards, and he's really, really strong. He's scaling up to 16 or 32 regularly, but you only are playing him in that deck. So I'm going to call him niche and strong. Oh, Darkhawk. See, Darkhawk is tough here, man. Like, I don't know where to put Darkhawk anymore, because the metas of the rocks have come and go. The metas of Arisham have come and go. And it's a card that if you have to choose between that and Cassandra Nova, when you're playing against large decks, very often you're wanting to play Cassandra Nova because it's just a better value for 3 than Darkhawk is for 5. But for Darkhawk to be more flexible, you need to synergize more deck clogging cards like Korg, which is fine, it's a 1 cost, but Rock Slide feels like absolute crap at 4 cost. I'm just not, even when he was a 3 cost, let's be honest here, like 3 or 4 cost, Rock Slide doesn't have enough power to justify him as just being on the board, even though he's reinforcing the Darkhawk. We've heard different versions of Rock Slide over the last couple of years. I just don't think that Darkhawk is a necessary combo card anymore. Like, it's a package option, but when you're building that package, there are very often other packages you could build instead that would be generally stronger. So I'm just going to call it niche but replaceable because there's more to him than that. Also, Bloodstone, that's another one that I'm going to call niche and replaceable because you're looking at clogging your location to get her effect to happen regularly. So you need her to play in a lane that's got you know, Kitty Pryde and Angela, Jeff the Baby Land Shark, Nightcrawler, Silk, things that move out of the lane consistently. And if you get 2 clogs of your own location to get the effect to happen twice, even if it's in 1 lane or multiple lanes, even if the effect happens twice, you get the value of the card. But when you're looking at the balance of when do you need power and when do you need energy, that's when you have to go look at your deck and decide, do you need Elsa Bloodstone or do you need Hope Summers? Because Hope Summers is another alternative that fills the same void. And back when Elsa first came out, when she was 2 cost, it made total sense because it filled the curve so nicely where you had this or Angela, just put either down and you're happy. At 3 cost, it often ends up feeling a little bit clunky. So it ends up being switched out very often. Therefore, it's niche, but replaceable. Fan Fae, another niche, but replaceable. I've seen some Fan Fae decks go insane. Fan Fae Heimdall, when you get the 1-2 combo to do the right combo and you get that Vulture or Dagger or Human Torch to go boom, boom, it's really tough to keep up with that. On the final turn, having the double movement of the entire board, more or less, it's really tough to keep up with that. The setup to do it at 4 cost is very expensive, and you need a god pull from the beginning of the game to know if you're gonna be able to do it or not. You need to know on your opening hand draw, do I have at least 2 of the ramp cards already in my hand, and do I have at least 1 other mover already in my hand, like Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, etc. So to get the combo to work, sure. And when it does it, man, I mean, this is an insanely good card in that very, 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 very niche situation. But you don't need it to play move. Move bounce, very much so better in my opinion. Very much so better in my opinion. I don't think it's necessary. But if you go all in on it, you'll be rewarded. First, Ghost Rider. There's, I think, what, 1 deck that you play this in? Hela, to try to discard either Gore or Iron Man. Okay, that's great. Do you need it though? Absolutely not. You don't need to have this card to play that deck. It's not a staple in that sense. 2/6 is great value. You know, it's kind of why Black Cat's very often slept on in those decks, because it's an easy automatic discard. It's guaranteed to come back with Hela because you're not discarding it that way. Yeah, even Khonshu if there's nothing going good there, but it's just kind of meh. Again, we're in a stretch right here of niche but replaceable. Gladiator. I mean, he's going up here in this range somewhere because 3/8, 1, great stats. 2, destroy element for anything lower power than him. 3, deck thinning that then also gives you information about their deck is also incredibly valuable. You can play him just as good stats. You can play him as looking to capitalize on a Fenris Wolf. You can play him in Surfer just because Surfer, you know, it's a 3 cost card, so Surfer. I mean, you could do anything with this card. It might be a must-have also, but if I had to choose between Cannonball and Gladiator, I'm probably choosing Gladiator. So this one I'm gonna have to update as we go, this upper half, and then these lower halves we'll also take a look at. Gorgon. Man, Gorgon was a card that I feel like it's what I'll call a hot location card, right? It's a card that when you have it and there's a really good hot location that Gorgon will benefit from, or a really good meta that Gorgon will benefit from, this is a great card. But it's always a defensive option card, right? If there's a lot of Thanos in the meta, if there's a lot of Airship in the meta, if there's a lot of Victoria Hand in the meta, there's a lot of good reason to be playing Gorgon. But you don't have to play Gorgon. You can also play things like Killmonger as an alternative. And it's not just in, oh my God, what's his name? Ronin. There we go. Hi. Ronin. It's not just in Ronin decks, it's a variety of other decks as well. I just don't see it as often as I would have expected it to, but I think it's incredibly meta dependent. And then even when it does have a moment to shine, It's exclusively an option. So you can put it in a variety of different decks, but very often you just don't. Grandmaster. Oh man, I love this card. I thought this card was good when it first came out, and then nobody played it. And then slowly over the last, I'd say, 6 months to a year of people really experimenting with of how to build their deck differently, Grandmaster ends up being this insanely solid card that is very flexible. Anything that's got an on reveal, it's doing it again. It's got move elements to it. It's got on reveal elements to it. I mean, it's just flexible. It doesn't have a dedicated home because there's so many on reveal cards. It can go into any deck. So I'm going to say it's plug and play flex tech pretty safely. And I feel like I'm going to do this just because that's a better definition of a plug and play card versus these, which can absolutely define a deck, even though there are multiple variations of the decks that they could be good at. Hellion. Hellion, I'm back and forth with niche but replaceable or flexible but replaceable, because with Hellion, being able to move your own cards only on the final turn, it's basically telling your opponent, hey, I'm building my own New York, the location, right? And you have to guess what I'm moving here and what I'm not. And I've said it for years, final turn movement is one of the scariest things to try to calculate for in Marvel Snap. It's why Vision is still under-respected as a card. But that doesn't mean that it is really necessary right now. Hellion is very similar to Fan-Fei, but if I have to choose between Fan-Fei or Hellion, I'm always choosing Fan-Fei. You can put it into a lot more decks than Fan-Fei, because Hellion is more tech-ish than it is move dedicated exclusively. So I'm gonna put Hellion down in flexible but replaceable. Hitmonkey. I mean, Hitmonkey, niche and strong or must have deck staple, because you don't have to have cards like Black Swan to make this card good, where you're dropping a load of cards all at once. Even if it's a turn 5 with Mysterio, it's great. Even in Wasp's variations, when the card first came out, I had an Invisible Woman combo, which is also a really good combo with Hitmonkey, and that seems to come and go randomly at times. That Invisible Woman Hitmonkey deck, it's somewhere in this. It's not a plug and play deck style of card, but when you do run a Hitmonkey deck, which is I'm probably going to lean towards deck staple, I think that you're not playing it as a 3-drop in a Surfer deck. You're playing it in a deck that wants to vomit cards on the final turn, and it's a very strong deck nevertheless. It could be Bounce, it can be the Mockingbird style Sasquatch decks, it can be even Zoo. I've seen it work in. Like, it's really good. It's really, really good. I'm going to leave it there. Iron Lad is easily a plug and play flex tech card. It's one of those cards that when you don't know what to throw in, you throw in Iron Lad, because if the rest of the 11 cards in the deck are all good, Iron Lad's copying a random ability. And as long as you get that random ability, chances are, if the deck has already got synergy built to it, you're just reinforcing that synergy with pretty okay stats. I think Iron Lad is constantly wanting to be meta relevant and ends up being a very good option, but there is no dedicated home for it. It is straight up flex. Just like Grandmaster, it goes into any deck, and it's very good. It can be a little expensive at times, so it wants the Zabu builds more often than not, but even without them, when you get a 4/6 Blue Marvel, you're not complaining, right? Or even as an alternate plan for your Hela deck, or an alternate plan for your Tribunal deck. There's a couple of different options there, but Iron Lad's a very strong card too. Jennifer Kale is another card that we're still honestly experimenting with. And I'm gonna put her in plug and play flex tech, because now she's a 2/3. She just got a buff this past week. And as a 2/3 that gives an energy at a random time, she's a 50-50 in any deck to be good. Every game she's a 50-50 because everybody loves extra energy. And having the flexibility to just play that extra piece down early and then save that extra energy for the final turn, there's something to be said there, without needing to have a magic to go to a 7th turn to get that 7 energy on the final turn. Without needing to have Hope Summers, which is more expensive, and then have to play on there on turn 5 to get the extra energy on turn 7. Just play it down on turn 2 and leave it alone. And then leave it alone right before turn 6, activate. There's a lot of decks that I feel like are going to want this card in the future, because we can see that Marvel Snap is wanting to move away from the 4-cost metas and more into the 5-cost metas. And I think that she will have a big play in it. So this is a little bit of a push to say she should be a plug and play card. Just don't be surprised if it doesn't work at the same time, because it's a 50-50 every game when you have her in the deck to make her valuable. King E3, that's probably going to be the first how about no. Even in decks that want to play him, like Agamotto decks and Airsham decks, there's zero need to have this card in those decks. Like zero. There's zero need for them. So it's not even a matter about is it replaceable and niche. You just don't need to have it at all. And even when you do put it in the decks that it wants, there's zero value to having that in any other situation other than it's in your opening hand. And for a 25% chance to do that, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. I think that King E3 is just a very bad card. I would love to see it get a buff in the future up to like a 1/3 to give it more value because it is an activate. And then it, in my opinion, it'd be pretty good. In my opinion, it'd be actually very good. Lasher, niche and strong, definitely. Whether it's the Cerebro 2 deck, whether it's an affliction deck, whether it's a hand buff deck, it is a very strong card because it's not only getting itself buffed, it's then putting that amount of affliction on the opposite end. So when this is a 2/3, it's actually a 2/6 or actually a 2/8, etc., etc., etc. I really think this card is under respected, except in Cerebro decks where you're really scared of it. And because of that, I think it's niche and strong. You don't want it everywhere, but the decks that you do play it in, it's really, really strong. Same thing with Laufey, and I'm actually going to grab Man-Thing ahead of time. That's right, you heard what I said. I'm going to grab both of these because they're both the options for the Affliction deck at 4 cost. You play the Zabu 4 cost Affliction package. It's these, it's Anti-Venom. More often than not, I'd probably pick Anti-Venom. You could even throw in some of the buffing 4 costs in there too. You know, throw in a Galacta just for giggles. Like, there's a lot of great cards for the Affliction decks. And yeah, Malekith is another one. I think that they are insanely strong for those decks. Outside of those decks, not at all. But in those decks, they are incredibly strong. So if you're looking to play Affliction, that's how you play Affliction. You throw those guys in there. At least one of them. At least one of them. Ideally both, but at least one. Legion. This is an ultimate flex card. Legion can be one of the most infuriating cards in your opponent's deck. If it's in an Airsham deck and it drops down on turn 4, it can absolutely ruin your entire day. And it's such a great surprise card on turn 6 because it flips all those locations. So they might have been playing into a certain synergy and you ruined it on the final turn. I think that this is very good as a I need a 5-drop. Okay, Legion. Yeah, Yoinks Cubes, right. It's a great rug pull card. Great rug pull card. I think that Legion also comes and goes on when the 5 costs are relevant, but just like we talked about with Jennifer Kale, that's the direction the game's gonna go. And you can throw him into pretty much any deck and actually enjoy having him there. So I'm gonna call him plug and play flex. Living Tribunal. He is a deck archetype in and of itself. You're playing a Tribunal deck. It's just like Silver Surfer. You're playing a Surfer deck. You're playing a Living Tribunal deck. You're playing a Pixie deck who's here. Just because I'm thinking of it, I'll throw her in there too. Like these are deck defining cards. Phoenix Force is another one, right? They're all deck defining cards. You can't play a Pixie deck without Pixie or a Phoenix Force deck without Phoenix Force. But the relevance of them is dependent on, is it a combo meta? Is it a mid-game meta? Is it a big dumb idiots meta? It really is you gotta be careful. It's probably on the lower end of this, but none of these 3 must-have deck staples are really truly also must-have because they're meta dependent, if that makes sense. Like I don't think they deserve their own category, but I do think that they are very good cards and you need them to play their deck. Plain and simple. Loki, I'm actually gonna take a hot guess here because Loki's a card. Loki's seen some stuff, y'all. Right? Loki's seen some stuff. And because Loki's seen some stuff, he has a very specific style of deck that he wants to be played in, but a lot of people just don't like to play him anymore. Is it weird to think that he's replaceable? I really don't think it's out of the realm of reason. I think he's a good card at what he does, but he needs more. The problem is when you give him too much, it's just oppressive. It's just oppressive. So I wouldn't put him in every deck. He's not flexible, but I would put him as a great option in the decks that want to run Quinjet. Not necessary, but I would consider him for those decks. Mercury. This is a flex tech card. I think Mercury is less needed than Cannonball because Cannonball doesn't need Mercury, but Mercury really needs Cannonball. So the ability to move, great. The ability to stop move in other players' cards, in your opponent's cards, also great. It's tech. It's just straight up good tech. It can really shut down a lot of cards and a lot of synergies very easily just by existing and having the ability to do that on the final turn and move to a different lane that's expecting it. Like I was just playing last week, we had a great moment happen where Mercury was down on the board and it stopped Captain Marvel from leaving the lane she was in to go to the winning lane. It can be a very strong card. So I'm gonna leave it there. Meek is discard only, so it's definitely niche. But I'm debating about, is Meek niche enough that it's a mandatory in the discard deck to the level that Dakin is? And I lean towards no, because if I have to choose between which one of those I want in the deck, I'm gonna take Dakin. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna call it niche but replaceable because it's an option, right? It's an option. Ms. Marvel, this feels so bad to put her down here, but I think it's true. I think that Ms. Marvel can go into a lot of decks, but is very often replaceable. She's fallen from grace. She was probably the best card in the game at one point, just like Loki was probably the best card in the game. And then the iteration changes of needing to have two different costs. It's really oppressive to have to balance and mitigate. And very often you just don't. So I can't ignore 15 power. I can't. So I don't want to put it as how about no. I don't think how about no is necessary for Ms. Marvel, but it is slowly working its way that way, unless if it gets a little more love somehow. Nicholas Scratch. This is another one where I'm going to say this is probably a how about no. It's just unnecessary. This card needing to get +1 on different skills that are played. It's just not strong enough. It doesn't justify itself. The tallest I've seen Nicholas Scratch on the board ever, from intent or lack thereof, is a 1/5. And to me, that's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. I think if Nicholas Scratch was a 1/1 that got +2 for every skill, this shoots up tremendously in value. But Nicholas Scratch right now, with all the different skills, even though we are getting more of them in the game, I thought the value would continue to rise. It's just not. Fastos, man, I mean, this card has come and gone in relevance and importance. It went from not being important in any way, shape, or form to being a niche surfer card to now being in a plethora of random decks. And I think it's because it finally got the power it needed. It needed to be up to 3/4 if they're going to keep it at 3 cost. And it could technically go into any deck. So there's a part of me that wants to put him here as plug and play flex. But at the same time, if I wanted to choose the niche but replaceables or the niche and strongs, like I'd probably choose the niche and strongs over Fastos, but I would choose Fastos over any of the niche but replaceables. I really wanted him to be a 2/2. To me, that would make him insanely good. But at 3/4, I think he's just the bottom of plug and play. There's a lot of different decks that he wants to be in, and you can really throw him into any deck and it'll do something of value. But as we learned from Surge, 2 cost really would help Fastos a lot more than 3 cost. Ravonna Renslayer, man, I mean, I'm gonna put this in niche but strong too, because you need to build the deck to have cards that are going to get reduced by it. So whether it's negative, Mr. Negative, whether it's an ongoing build with a load of Iron Men and like Mystique and stuff of that nature and Gore, like if you're building that deck, like the Esme Cuckoo decks, it's really good, but only in that deck, in those style of decks. It's just strong, but you can't just throw it into everything. You can't throw it into everything. Sasquatch. I think this is another one that falls in the high power aspect of, look, it's a 6/10 that's almost never a 6/10. It's almost always a 5/10 because you're playing cards almost every single turn more often than not. But I think I'm going to put them in niche but replaceable, because at least at niche but replaceable, you look at when do you want to play him, whether it's a Thanos build, whether it's a Mockingbird build. You know, that's definitely his best home is Mysterio Mockingbird, but you don't have to have him necessarily. Like you could play those cards in other decks and it would be fine. Sasquatch is just, he needs them more than they need him. Therefore, that's why I end up with niche but replaceable for him. Sebastian Shaw, that's another niche but strong. Like the scaling on Sebastian Shaw, whether you're playing Surfer and you just play him down as is and you get Surfer to hit him once and he's a 3/8, awesome. But then when you start looking at hand buffs, when you start looking at board buffs, I mean, I've seen some Sebastian Shaws in the 30s. And it's just wild how fast it can happen too. The Ironheart buff, quote unquote, helped other things, but that was a really good piece for Sebastian Shaw previously. Doing like the Wong, Ironheart, you know, that type of like toxic build also was in there, was really good because it was an alt line for it. It's a really strong card, but it has to have hand buff or a buff in some capacity. It's just good, and you really need it in those decks. Scar, that's definitely niche but strong too, because Scar was in contention for needing to find a really awful adjustment in the future with the Surtur meta that came and went, and having free Scar was scary. As a 7/12 that gets his reductions, I think he's appropriate. You really almost only play him in those decks, and when you do, he does great. He could be a 1/12. That would be great. Awesome. I don't have much to say about Scar, only that, you know, I kind of miss, keyword kind of miss 6-cost Scar, and I might want it back. That's a topic for another cocktail. Supergiant. This is another one that, like, Supergiant wants to have a good meta. It really does. It wants to be up here so badly, but there's something holding it back, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's 3-cost. I don't know if it's like 4/9. I don't know what it is, but Supergiant desperately wants to be a played card because it's such a good mechanic, but you just straight up never do. Anytime you have the option to play Supergiant, you just don't. So you know what? I'm actually going to put this in how about no. Until Supergiant either goes down in cost or goes up to a significant... If they can make Misery a 4/9, there's zero reason. If Misery can be a 4/9, there's no reason that Supergiant couldn't be either. Just saying. Just saying. Topaz. Oh, dear God. Look, Topaz has a home. It has a move home, but you never want to play it because it's incredibly difficult to play with. Like, Topaz is one of those cards that you have to play it in the right or the left lane, and then that lane is basically disabled unless if you have Madam Web in the middle lane on turn 2. And if you get that, then Topaz can be a great card. That's awesome. But you don't very often. It's a very specific combination. It's like when you play Pixie decks and you want to get Pixie Mobius. If you have that, it's a snap condition. I think the same thing about Topaz Madam Web, but then you need to also have the ramp cards on top of it. So I would rather take Hellion in a move deck. I would rather take Fanfei in a move deck. It's just a help out now. Toxidoxy is a weird one because I'm actually going to put Toxidoxy higher than. I do think that there is a meta that will exist for Toxidoxy. Right now, this is a 2/3, and this 2/3 is a total of a 2/7 value, which is really strong. And I just don't think people have discovered Toxidoxy yet. I don't think she's a how about no. I don't. I think that people just haven't discovered how to use her best yet, because she's a card that you can only really play on turns 2, 3, and 4. After that, then she just sits in your hand on turn 5 because you never want to play her on turn 5. And then she's left over on turn 6. So I don't think you make her a 2/4. I think she's good as a 2/3. I think the +2s are fine that she gives the cards in your hand, but that restriction means you need to have a very flexible type of deck for her that allows you to say, okay, well, I don't have to play a certain combo in a certain order. It's just straight up good numbers and stats. She will have her day. I can sense it. It's just not today. Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben, it's hysterical to think that Uncle Ben has gone through this meme change where when he first released, people played Uncle Ben just to see the animation and laugh, be like, oh my God, I can't believe that this card did a thing. And then people started to realize, wait a minute, this is a 1/2 that basically doubles its power and has some tech built in it because of the Spider-Man play. Then you started to see it appear more and more and more. You see it in Destroy Thanos decks, you see it in general, any kind of LDS deck, but I just don't think you need them in that deck. Yeah, Scream decks as well, we've been seeing it too, so I think it ends up going in niche but replaceable. I think it's a really fun card, and that VFX, they absolutely did not need to do that, but you don't need to have it, but it's fun when you do. Valentina, this is flexible but replaceable in my opinion. I think Valentina is one of those cards that it has a home. You know, it has a nice Victoria hand home, Quinjet, hand buff, even can work with it. Any kind of deck that's also running Luke Cage can consider it, but it's almost always the first cut, right? Like, there's no Valentina meta. 6-cost card is great. Getting it reduced down, great, awesome. But yeah, I'm always moving past it as a necessary card. Werewolf by Night, I think I'm gonna put that as must-have deck staple, because when you play a werewolf deck and you dedicate the deck to Werewolf by Night, he's stupid strong, like stupid strong. He's one of those cards that I still want to see also at 2 cost. I want to see him as a 2/0, because when you invest in Werewolf by Night, you have to invest all in. You have to. He's not an option card. It's a, look, this is going down on turn 3 and we're making Werewolf do the werewolf thing. But when he does the werewolf thing, the value you get from him, yeah, it's a werewolf deck. Just like X23. X23 is a must-have. Destroy decks absolutely need to have X23. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I don't think anybody would even contest that. X23 is just one of those, look, you're building a destroy deck, awesome, throw in X23. It's very rare that you're not playing X23. In a conversation with some creators a while ago, I was asked, what is the best 1-cost card? And I made an argument that X23 was in the top 5, because it is one of the most influential 1-cost cards that has ever come out, because it brought destroy to a competitive level. It was no longer the stepchild of the deck archetypes. X23 said, hang on, now try it. And then all of a sudden, the destroy deck started to erupt. With that in mind, then, if I were to take all of this and then reorganize it per line in strength, this is where the magic of editing comes in, because we're about to see a fast forward thing of me editing all of these all at once. Ready? Ta-da! That would be the order in which I would put them. I think that out of all of the Series 4 cards, the second you see X23, Gladiator, or Cannonball, you grab them, because they are just absolutely insane for the decks that you want to use them in. Anything in the top row, I would grab immediately and start messing around with those decks. Anything in the second row, I would grab immediately, because you're going to get good value out of them. Anything else down below that, make sure you know when and where you want to use those cards. And if your goal is to build those decks, then know when and what order to grab them. Like if you're building a clog deck, yeah, go after a Nihilus, absolutely. If you're building a bounce deck, consider Elsa Bloodstone, but do you need Elsa Bloodstone? Do you want to use your resources for another archetype? You see what I'm saying? And then just the how about knows, we need to wait for them to get a little bit of love. So that's the Series 4 tier list right there. I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty well-rounded for the metas right now, as well as into some longevity pending changes in OTAs and patches and things of that nature, which we'll always talk about here on the channel as well. So if you ever have any questions, comments, inquiries, song lyrics, anything you want to talk about with Marvel Snap, let us know down in the comments below. We're here to have a conversation, and I'd love to have one with you. So thank you so much. You know the drill. Emojis, like, subscribe, do all of the above. Where's Cobra? Cobra doesn't deserve to be on the Series 4 tier list because Cobra. Oh wait, I just realized. You know who else is not on here? Mole Man and Mad Thinker. Mad Thinker, definitely how about no. And Mole Man as a bonus in here, I'll probably put him in niche but replaceable. But we'll have to test him more to find out. Okay, now the video's over.